Hi, I'm Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton, and I represent Virginia's 10th District in the U.S. House of Representatives. We can never repay the debt we owe to those who have served our country in uniform, but we do have a responsibility to care for our veterans and their families when they return home. I'm proud to offer this video series of conversations between my office's Military and Veterans Liaison, Anthony Barnes, and veterans service organizations in our community to help Virginia 10 veterans get connected to resources that can get them that support that they need. I hope you enjoy these conversations and find them informative. And remember, my office is here to help however we can. Visit wexton.house.gov/contact to get in touch with us. Thanks so much.
Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. My name is Anthony Barnes. I serve as the Military and Veteran Manager for Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton here in Virginia's 10th Congressional District. This and the latest of our series of Veteran Service Organization interviews. We're joined and thrilled to be joined today by Diane Klopp, founder and president of Top of Virginia Honor Flight. Diane, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, as you know, the purpose of these meetings is to affiliate ourselves with veteran service organizations in Virginia's 10th Congressional District, not only to bring awareness of what's available, but to see how you can help and how we can help these organizations. So today, Top of Virginia Honor Flight, something that a lot of folks are familiar with, the Honor Flight, but they may not be familiar with the backstory or how they can get involved. So Diane, tell us a little bit about, let's just start with Honor Flight in general for those who aren't familiar. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I appreciate it.
Sure, absolutely. So Honor Flight Network is a nationwide organization, and our mission is to honor our nation's most senior veterans, those who served in World War II, Korea, or Vietnam, with a free trip to Washington, D.C., so that they can see the memorials built in their honor. And the whole concept behind Honor Flight got started back in 2004 when the World War II memorial was finally being built. There was a gentleman by the name of Earl Morse who worked at Wright-Patt Air Force Base, and he worked at the hospital there, and a lot of his patients were World War II veterans, and they were so excited that the World War II memorial was finally being built. And so as time went by, Earl kept talking to these World War II veterans and saying, have you been to the World War II memorial? Have you got to see your memorial? And for whatever reason, the veterans were not able to get to DC, be it financial constraints, they couldn't drive themselves, their family couldn't get off work. And so Earl talked to one of the veterans, and Earl happened to be a private pilot. And Earl said, if I fly you to Washington, D.C., would you like to go see your memorial? And the veteran just started crying. And so Earl took that first veteran in December of 2004. And then it was such an amazing experience that he went back to the Aero Club at Wright-Patt, and he said, I've got an idea. This is what I want to do. I want to fly World War II veterans to Washington, D.C. so that they can see their memorial. And so in 2005, they had 6 planes. They flew 12 veterans. They flew into Manassas Regional Airport, and they put them on a bus and they took them to DC. And that's kind of the idea behind where Honor Flight came from. And then at the same time, there was another man by the name of Jeff Miller who was in North Carolina, and he was doing the exact same thing. And so Earl and Jeff combined forces, and the Honor Flight Network was born. Now, I got associated with it because so many flights come in to Dulles and to National and to BWI. And so I had heard that they were looking for people to come and greet the flights when they landed. And so at that time, my son was very small, and I thought it would be a great idea for his Cub Scout pack to go to Dulles and to just stand there and cheer for the veterans as they came off the plane. And we gave them all little flags. And so they stood there and they cheered. And honestly, I was hooked. From that moment on, I was hooked. And so I found out that there are a lot of hubs flying in from across the country. Every veteran is paired with a guardian for the day to ensure their safety. And so, a lot of the veterans are spry and don't need, a buddy, but we pair them up regardless, just to make sure they're having a great day, treating them like the hero that they are, getting them anything that they need. And so for many years, I went out to Dulles and I got paired up with a veteran that was flying in. And it was a great experience. Being able to spend the day with these heroes and hear their stories is just such an honor to be able to do that. And so one day I was standing there waiting for a flight to come in, and it kind of dawned on me, it's great that we are doing this for the veterans flying in from California and Texas and everywhere else, but why aren't we doing this for the veterans right here in our area? They deserve the day of honor just as much as anybody else flying in from across the country. And so that's when we decided to form Honor Flight Top of Virginia. That was the summer of 2016. We had our first trip. We call them missions because obviously from here we don't need to take the plane, so we don't do an actual flight. We go by charter bus. But we had our first mission in October of 2016. And so far we've had 9 trips. We've honored about 350 or so veterans, and 60 of them have been World War II veterans.
It's interesting you mentioned how you had that kind of epiphany standing there thinking about our local veterans and how they don't get into it. Because when I talk about this, sometimes I'll get that response, well, you're so close. What's the deal? Well, I mean, I've worked in this position for 6 years. I've worked in DC quite a bit. I can count on one hand how many times I've stopped at the memorials and they were all on your trips. Yeah. Because it's not something, even living in the area, you don't think about doing. And I think it's so much more than that too. It's not just about visiting the memorials. It's like you said, and you say it so eloquently, it's receiving that day of honor. And so that's such a fantastic element to it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I grew up in Alexandria, and so I never went to DC. My dad worked at Andrews. He never saw the memorials when he was alive because it's just, people come in from across the country, but when you're a local, you just don't want to deal with the traffic and the parking. And so it's just.
I think it's such an experience too, experiencing it with your brothers and sisters too, in arms, who were there with you, who may have been, exposed to the same things and experienced the same things, and reconnecting in some cases. I've hearing the conversations on the buses on the way down and on the way back is some of the most fascinating things in the world. It's a real life history lesson, and how, well, I was here and I was here. Well, that person, I knew them 70 years ago, but they still remember their first and last name because those are the things that don't go away from us as veterans. So that's such a cool experience. Now, one thing you mentioned, I'd like to clarify for everybody, the Guardians. Now, are these volunteers? How do they become in that position?
Yeah, so for us, for our hub, a veteran is allowed to bring a family member with them as their guardian if they'd like to do that. But our rule on that is they have to be between the ages of 18 and 65, not their spouse, and healthy enough to push a wheelchair all day. Because we do take a wheelchair equipped bus with a lift. So if we have any veterans that have difficulty walking, that's not a problem. We don't want that to keep them from participating in the trip. We take extra wheelchairs for everybody. We park right up close next to the memorials, but it is a long day. And so if they want to be pushed around in a wheelchair, then absolutely, we will push them in a wheelchair. But a guardian is basically just a buddy for the day, somebody to be with them, make sure they don't wander off, that we all travel together as a group to all the memorials that we go to, get them water, get them soda. We provide everything for the day. They don't need to go buy anything. So it's just somebody to be basically their battle buddy for the day.
Not to put you on the spot, but because I'm going to share one of my own personal experiences with Honor Flight that was so moving to me. But is there anything that stands out to you?
The one thing that's always stuck with me is, and it's hard for me to even tell the story, but the Vietnam veterans were never honored when they returned from war. And in fact, they were treated horribly. And so we really want, and one of the things that we do when we get back from the day is we have this huge welcome home. We have dancers. We have the fire department come and hang a huge American flag over those. We have people that just line the street waving flags, thanking them for their service. And that makes all the difference to these guys, because for 50 years now, they were treated horribly. And that's the lasting memory that a lot of them have from coming home. And I know we can't be, but if we can tell them that we are so grateful for their service and that we honor them. And just along those lines, we had a Vietnam veteran. He was very quiet throughout the trip. And at the end of the day, everyone had left. And I was the last person there sweeping up the floor. And here the door opens and it's a Vietnam veteran coming back in. And I said, "Oh, did you forget something?" He just wanted to tell me, he said, "Now that I have been honored, I can die in peace." That just makes it all worthwhile, you know, to give somebody that, to be able to let them know that we do honor them. You know, so many of these veterans are, you know, the World War II guys, there are hardly any left. A lot of them are sitting in nursing homes and think that they've been forgotten. And we want to let them know that we have not forgotten and we will never forget their service.
That's powerful, and it's the absolute truth, and you see it in so many of these guys. And for me, a modern veteran, if you will, it's incredible to be able to honor that service and honor that sacrifice from time before I was alive, and what got us here to this point we're sitting in today. And for me, you know, the history that gets passed along. Like I said, I mentioned the hearing the stories on the bus, but also, you know, on the one trip we went down, one of our local veterans here, a World War II veteran who was a POW, was down there, and just to see the families with kids coming up and talking to him. He wore his vest, and he wears it so proudly, and he wears his cover so proudly, and just to see folks coming up to him and thanking him, but also talking to him and asking questions. It's so much more than just a day. It's a day to honor all of them, and a day to allow our families and our visitors to DC to honor them. And so as local veterans, I think it's such a cool thing. But
and even with some of the Vietnam veterans, you know, it's such an emotional experience for them. You know, we don't force them to go to the wall. We'll take them there, but we don't make them go. And a lot of them, until they've been on the honor flight, emotionally, they haven't been able to get themselves there. But when they're on that bus with 50 other veterans that know what they've been through, then they can finally go, they can finally make it to the wall and finally get some closure and some peace.
Yeah, that's a powerful sentiment in itself. Wow. On to you know, a more lighthearted part of it. In my experience being down there, I ran into a few folks there to greet the veterans as well, namely Senator Dole, who up until I think last year was there almost every single one of the trips I was on, greeting all of our veterans, all of our people with handshakes and hugs, and, you know, talking about Winchester, which is kind of neat for folks like us who live here. And there's also been other folks down there. So if you don't, you know, talk about that a little bit.
It's funny, the first time I met Senator Dole, his security detail came on the bus before we got off. And they were like, you know, "Senator Dole's here. You can go up and wave, but don't approach him, blah, blah, blah," you know, and I'm walking by with my veteran and he's like, "Hey, come on over. Let me get a kiss. Let me get a hug." You know, he's just amazing. And he will sit there and shake every single veteran's hand until there are no more veterans left. He is the most amazing man. So it's been such a blessing to have him greet our veterans when we get down there.
That's fantastic. I mean, and it's an experience, like I said, like no other. The Congresswoman and I have both been fortunate enough to be down there at times to go to the send off and the homecoming. So with the trips coming up, and we'll get into the dates of those in a minute here, but just talk a little bit about that send-off and that coming home. You mentioned the band and everything like that, but give them kind of what an experience would look like, if you don't mind.
So can I just tell about the whole day?
Please. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
So we start early in the morning, depending on where we're leaving from, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but usually around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, the veterans will check in, and we give them each an Honor Flight polo shirt to wear for the day. We get their picture taken. We have a professional photographer that does an amazing job. He'll take like 500 pictures throughout the day, and he donates them all to us. So the veterans can have all those pictures to print out if they'd like. So they check in, we give them breakfast, we pair them up with their buddy for the day, their guardian, and we'll usually have someone sing the national anthem, and then we'll board the bus and we'll head to DC. And normally our first stop is the World War II Memorial. We'll spend maybe 45 minutes there. Then we go to Korea and Vietnam, and we'll spend maybe an hour and a half there at those two locations. Then we'll go to the Air Force Memorial, where we'll have a box lunch and just some time to chit chat and visit with each other. And we'll drive by the Iwo Jima Memorial. And then my favorite stop of the day is when we go to Arlington. We have special access. We drive the tour buses right up to the Tomb of the Unknowns at Arlington, so that the veterans don't have to walk. They don't have to ride the little train. We walk right up to the Tomb of the Unknowns. We have a special roped off area for the veterans, so they have front row view to see the changing of the guard. And that's another image that really sticks in my mind. There's nothing like when you've been, pushing around a 99-year-old World War II veteran all day in a wheelchair, and then he hears taps at Arlington and he stands to salute. And it gives him goosebumps even thinking about it, but that's another amazing experience that we have. And so then we'll load the buses back up and we'll head back home. We do a couple of surprises on the trip home. We give every veteran a challenge coin. Anybody who's ever been in the military knows what a challenge coin is. And then we surprise them with mail call. So when they were in the service, they would always look forward to getting cards and letters from their family back home. And so we try to secretly reach out to their family to get their family to send them cards and letters. We're not always successful, but regardless, we reach out to scout troops and just the general public, and we have stacks and stacks of mail, and every veteran will get a huge stack of letters and cards thanking them for their service. And it doesn't have to be a long drawn out letter. It can just be a thank you card. We get a lot from schools, even little small children, like their teacher will give them a coloring sheet that's patriotic and they'll just color it. And that means so much to the veterans to get those. And I'll get calls weeks afterwards. Hey, I'm sitting here going through my mail, and they just love it. They love to be able to see that and to know that people haven't forgotten about them. And then we'll get back to the departure location and we'll have this huge welcome home celebration for them. We try to keep it a surprise from the veterans. They know they're going to get dinner. We always have dinner catered by Mission Barbecue, and their spouse is invited to join them for dinner. What they don't know is that we try to line the streets with the public, waving flags, holding signs, thank you for your service, welcome home. We get the fire trucks with the big aerial ladders to hang a huge American flag over the street. We have a swing band that performs period music and swing dancers. So it's just this huge welcome home celebration, again, that so many of them never got. And that's a typical day. We usually get back around 6 o'clock in the evening.
It's a full day, but it is a fantastic day.
And then after the trip, we use all those photos that we've received, and we make each veteran a photo book, a hardcover photo book, so that they can have it, so they can share the day with their family and just something to remember the day by.
It's a very cool reminder. Absolutely. So let's talk about the trips you got coming up. I mean, last year, obviously, we were shut out due to COVID. this year coming back strong, 3 upcoming trips. So touch on those a little bit.
3 trips in 4 weeks. So I'm probably going to lose my mind, but it's worth it for the vets. So Honor Flight Top of Virginia is the closest hub to DC. So the next closest hub to us is down, there's one in the Richmond, Virginia Beach area. And then there's another one down in Bedford, down past Roanoke. So any veteran that lives in this entire area is eligible to go on one of our trips. We don't care where you live. We don't care if you live in Martinsburg, West Virginia. We don't care. We don't care. If you can get to our departure location, and if you served any time prior to 1975, then you are eligible to go on one of our trips. We don't care if you didn't serve during war. We don't care if you served in peacetime. We don't care if you never left American soil. If you served, you served. So anyone who served any time prior to 1975 is eligible to go on one of our trips. We currently do not have a wait list. So if you apply to one of our trips, I can get you on one of the fall trips, or if not one of the fall trips, then one of the spring trips. This is not a one-time deal for us. We continue to do trips year after year. We want to continue going until we've served every single veteran that would like this opportunity. So the 3 trips that we have coming up in the fall, we currently do our trips on Saturdays. So we have a trip coming up out of Winchester on Saturday, September 18th. Then we have a trip coming up out of Harrisonburg on Saturday, September 25th. And then a trip out of Loudoun County on Saturday, October 9th. And they're all identical trips. They're the same trip that you would get if you lived in California and you were flying in. It's just, we don't use the plane. We take a 55-person passenger bus. It's got a bathroom on it. No worries about that.
That's excellent. And no worries about the flights or anything like that getting canceled.
No worries
because
about
we're taking a bus.
TSA.
Yeah, a little bit easier to process through.
We'll say for the fall trips, we are following CDC guidelines. So for the fall trips, we are requiring that everyone has to be vaccinated. Everyone on the trip, be it veteran, guardian, photographer, anyone who's on that bus will have to be vaccinated. And currently the CDC guidelines say that you have to wear a mask while you're on the bus. So that's the guideline that we'll be following at this point.
Of course, absolutely. Safety first. When we talk about these trips and we mentioned how guardians can assist the community at large here, what can you ask of them?
We need guardians. We need people to be a buddy to a veteran for the day. It's a day-long commitment. Like I said, usually 7, 8 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. You don't need any kind of expertise. You need just care about the veteran. You don't need any medical background. You don't need any training. You just need to want to spend the day with a veteran. If anybody would like to apply, we would love to have you. We are in need of guardians to make sure that the veterans are safe on their trips. So anybody who would like to apply can go to our website, which is honorflight-tov, which is short for Top of Virginia. So honorflight-tov.org. And when you get on there, there's a menu across the top. You want the one that says forms, and then there's a big red button. Click here for online guardian application. And you just type in your name, your address, what shirt size you'd like. There's no cost. We provide you with a shirt. We provide you with lunch. We provide you with dinner, all the snacks all day long. So there's no cost. We just want you to come and make sure that our veterans have a day that they will not forget.
It is certainly a worthwhile and gratifying experience. I can say from personal experience, and I encourage everybody to take a look at it because it's great. And we'll put the website up link with the video and everything like that, and make sure that everyone has easy access to it. Diane, I can't thank you enough for coming on board here. If there's any parting thoughts, feel free. If not, I look forward to seeing you on the next trips, and anything that we can do to get you out there, we'll be happy to do.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you.
Thank you.